Hello and welcome back to Speak More Fluently.
Hi, everyone.
Today we're doing a deep dive into something that, well, it can feel like a real stumbling block for a lot of English learners. Talking on the phone.
Ah, yes, the phone. It's a common one.
Definitely. But we've put together some really insightful ways to not just get through phone calls, but actually handle them with, confidence and clarity.
That's the goal.
So stick with us, and you'll discover some really practical phrases and maybe some simple mindset shifts that can honestly transform how you feel about those English conversations where, well, you can't see the other person.
Exactly. And think about how often you might actually need to make a call.
Oh, all the time.
Right? For work, booking things, just keeping in touch. Being able to communicate well on the phone in English just opens up so many doors.
And reduces stress, I imagine.
Definitely reduces potential stress.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at why phone calls can feel a bit different and give you some solid strategies to navigate them more smoothly.
It's funny, isn't it? When we talk face-to-face, we rely so much on seeing people's reactions.
Oh, absolutely.
A nod, a smile, maybe a confused look.
Those little visual cues tell us so much.
They really do. And then on the phone, boom, all of that just vanishes.
It's gone. It's just your voice and their voice.
Yeah.
And because those visuals are gone, your voice suddenly takes center stage.
Right.
The way you phrase things, your tone, even the rhythm of your speech, it all carries so much more weight. It's a purely auditory thing.
Which has its own challenges.
It really does. Its own set of communication nuances.
And let's not forget the technical gremlins sometimes.
Oh, yeah?
A bad connection, maybe lots of background noise on their end or yours.
I can really throw you off.
Yeah.
Makes it even harder to catch what's being said.
It's like an extra hurdle you didn't need.
That's a great point. And because those sort of sound barriers might exist, being proactive about your own clarity, your own focus, becomes even more important.
So you need to compensate.
Yeah, you anticipate those potential issues and kind of make up for them on your end.
All right, so one thing I hear a lot from learners, a big worry, is understanding different accents. Or maybe just when someone speaks really, really fast.
Very common frustration. Understandably so.
It can feel quite awkward, like you're put on the spot.
It can. But the empowering thing to remember is that there are completely okay, polite ways to handle this. You don't have to just nod along pretending you understood.
That's good to hear. So in that moment, you just didn't catch it. What's a good response? What can you say?
Keep it simple and direct. Something like, "Sorry, could you repeat that, please?" is perfectly fine. Standard even.
Okay.
Or, if it's the speed, "Would you mind speaking a little more slowly?"
Ah, okay.
Both are very common, totally acceptable requests. People usually get it and are happy to adjust. No big deal.
That is reassuring. It takes the pressure off feeling like you have to decode everything instantly.
Right.
Another thing that comes up is just feeling stuck, like not knowing the right words or phrases for different bits of the call.
Yeah, that feeling of what do I say now?
Exactly.
That's where having almost like a mental toolkit of standard phrases can be a huge confidence booster.
Okay.
Because there are established ways to, start a call, make requests, end the call politely. You can learn these and adapt them.
So you have something ready to go, like tools for the job.
Precisely.
And I guess sometimes that uncertainty, not knowing the right words, that can make you feel a bit anxious.
It often does.
And that probably affects how you actually sound on the phone.
That's often the cycle, yeah.
Oh.
If you feel unsure, it might come out as maybe a quieter voice, or you sound a bit shaky, or you rush your words.
Mm-hmm.
But as you get more comfortable with those standard phrases, that confidence builds. And then it translates into a calmer, clearer voice. It feeds itself in a good way.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about preventing that anxiety, before we even pick up the phone or dial the number, what can we do? How can we prepare?
Preparation. It's so valuable. Don't underestimate it. It's not that different from getting ready for, say, a presentation or an important meeting.
Okay, like a mini prep session.
Sort of. Think of it as mentally walking through the key parts of the conversation.
Okay, let's break that down then. What does this mental walkthrough actually involve?
Well, first, be really clear in your own head. What's the purpose of this call?
Right.
What exactly do you need to achieve?
Right. Get specific.
Yeah. Are you gathering info? Giving an update? Trying to sort out a problem? Having that clear goal helps you stay focused and on track during the call.
Yeah, it's easy to get sidetracked otherwise if you're not sure what the main point is. What else?
It's really helpful to jot down any key words or phrases you think you'll need.
Like vocabulary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Names, maybe specific numbers, reference codes, any technical terms related to the topic. Having them written down means you're not scrambling to remember them under pressure.
Good tip. Saves that awkward pause while you rack your brain.
Mhm.
And what about the classic, pen and paper? Still worth having handy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Having something to take notes with is brilliant.
Why is that?
Well, obviously it helps you remember important details, what was agreed, names, numbers.
Right.
But it also means you probably won't have to ask the other person to repeat stuff as often, which, keeps the conversation flowing better.
Good point. Keeps things smooth.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've done our prep. We're ready. Now it's time to actually make the call or maybe answer one. How do we start strong?
That opening moment, it really does set the tone for the whole chat.
First impressions count, even on the phone.
They really do. So if you're the one making the call, be quite direct. Say who you are and briefly why you're calling.
Okay, like what?
For instance, good morning. This is your name from your company I'm calling about. Or I'm calling to follow up on. Something clear like that.
Nice and simple. And if the phone rings and you're the one picking it up?
Okay, so when you answer, aim for a tone that's professional, but also helpful, welcoming. Something like, good afternoon, your company name, your name speaking, how can I help you? Works really well.
I like that. It's polite, offers help straight away.
Exactly.
I've also heard this tip, maybe it sounds a bit weird, but smiling when you talk on the phone, does that actually make a difference to your voice?
It honestly does. It might feel a bit strange since they can't see you,
Yeah.
but a genuine smile actually makes your voice sound warmer, more friendly, more approachable. It's a tiny tweak, but it can have a surprisingly positive effect on your tone.
Huh. Worth trying then. Okay, so the call's started, we're talking. What about when you need to ask for something? Make a request. How do we do that politely?
Politeness is definitely key here. Using those modal verbs could, would, might really softens your requests and makes them sound more considerate.
Okay, so instead of saying, I want to speak to Mr. Thomas.
Try, could I speak to Mr. Thomas, please? Or maybe, would it be possible to speak to Mr. Thomas?
Right, that feels much less demanding. And what if the person you need, say Mr. Thomas, isn't actually available? And you need to leave a message or maybe take one?
Again, clarity is crucial. If the person isn't in, the person answering might say, I'm sorry, he's not available right now. Can I take a message?
Okay.
And if you're the caller, you could respond, yes, please. Could you ask him to call me back when he's free?
And you need to leave your number then?
Absolutely. My number is your phone number. Say it clearly. Or you might just say, please let him know I called. My number is 555-1234.
Got it. Now, what if you're on the call and you just didn't quite understand something? Maybe they said a number quickly or a name. How do you ask for clarification without sounding rude or, like you weren't listening?
Oh, don't hesitate to ask. It's much better than guessing and getting it wrong.
True.
Simple phrases work best. Could you repeat that, please? Or, sorry, I didn't quite catch the last part.
Okay.
If it was, say, a number confusion, you could ask specifically, sorry, was that 1515 or 550?
Ah, clarifying the options. Good idea.
Yeah. And it's always a smart move to repeat back key information just to double check you've got it right.
How would you do that?
Something like, okay, let me just confirm. I should meet you at 10:30, is that correct? Or, so just to check, you need the report by Friday.
That proactive check definitely seems like it could prevent a lot of mix-ups later on.
Absolutely. Saves time and trouble.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly to voicemails. Those times you call and just get the machine. What makes a good, effective voicemail message?
A good voicemail is helpful, not annoying.
Hmm.
So keep it clear and concise. Structure helps.
Structure for a voicemail.
Yeah, a simple structure. Start by clearly saying your name, then briefly the reason you're calling.
Okay.
Then, crucially, leave your contact number. Say it slowly and clearly.
Even repeat it.
Yes, repeating the number is a really good idea, especially because the first time you're leaving it for them makes it much easier for them to jot it down.
Okay, so name, reason, number, repeat number. Anything else?
Just be specific but brief about why you called. Instead of a vague, call me back, maybe say, hi, this is Aisha from Green Tech. I'm calling to confirm our 3 p.m. meeting tomorrow. Please call me back at 555-4321. Again, that's 555-4321. Thanks.
Clear, concise, has all the info. Perfect.
Exactly. Gets the job done. And speaking slowly and clearly is extra important for voicemails, especially with names and numbers.
Right, because they might be listening in a noisy place or jotting it down quickly.
Precisely.
We've talked a lot about the words, the phrases, but the way we see them on the phone, that feels just as important, maybe even more so without the visuals.
It really is. Your tone of voice, the pace you speak at, they become incredibly significant in conveying not just your message, but also your attitude, your professionalism.
So how should we aim to sound?
Speak clearly, first off, and aim for a moderate pace. Not too fast, not too slow. Definitely avoid rushing, particularly when you're saying important details like names, numbers, addresses, or any jargon or technical terms. Give the listener time to process.
And the tone itself, does positivity really come across?
It absolutely does. Even if you're dealing with a complaint or a problem, maintaining a polite, professional, reasonably positive tone helps keep the conversation constructive and moving forward. It prevents things from escalating unnecessarily.
Okay. And you mentioned pauses earlier. How can pauses be useful? They seem like they might just create awkward silence.
Not necessarily. Strategic pauses are actually quite powerful. They give the other person a moment to think, to process what you just said, especially after you ask a question.
Ah, I see. So it's not awkward, it's processing time.
Exactly. It allows them to formulate their response without feeling rushed or like they need to jump in immediately. It also shows you're actively listening and respecting their turn to speak. It creates space in the conversation.
That's a really interesting point. Okay, this is all super practical. Now, thinking bigger picture, we live in a very connected world, lots of international calls for work or personal reasons. Are there cultural things we should be aware of? Differences in phone etiquette?
Yes, definitely. Cultural norms can absolutely influence phone communication styles. What's considered perfectly normal or polite in one culture might be slightly different elsewhere.
Can you give an example?
Sure. For instance, in some international business settings, particularly in certain cultures, it's quite common, even expected, to start with a little bit of small talk, asking, "How are you today?" or a brief, polite inquiry before getting straight down to business.
Whereas in other places, maybe jumping right in is more the norm.
Exactly. So it pays to be a little mindful of that context if you know it. Another thing is interruptions.
Right, cutting people off?
Generally is good practice everywhere to avoid interrupting. But in some cultures, it's considered particularly important to let the other person fully finish their thought before you respond. Patience is key.
Good reminder. Anything else on the cultural front?
Just remembering to explicitly thank the person for their time at the end, even if it was a quick call. It's a small gesture of respect that's pretty much universally appreciated.
Okay, good points. And that leads nicely to closing the call. How do we wrap things up politely and professionally?
Yeah, ending well leaves a good final impression. Simple closing phrases work great.
Such as?
Things like, "Thank you very much for your help today," or "Okay, great, I'll send that email over shortly," confirming an action. Or just a friendly, "All right, speak to you soon, have a great day."
Nice and positive. Okay, so we've really focused a lot on the speaking part, being clear, polite phrases. What about the other side of the coin? Listening effectively on the phone.
Crucial skill. Active listening is just as important as clear speaking.
So how can we become better phone listeners?
Well, first, try to minimize distractions around you. Find a quiet spot if you can. That helps you focus entirely on their voice.
Makes sense. Less background noise helps you hear.
Right. And listen actively for keywords, dates, times, numbers, names, any action items they mention. Train your ear to pick out those critical bits of information.
And resist the temptation to check emails while you're on the call.
Definitely resist multitasking. Give the conversation your full attention. It shows respect, and you're much less likely to miss something important.
That's very true. Okay, so we've got all these fantastic tips, phrases, strategies. What's the best way for listeners to actually get better, to build that confidence?
The million-dollar question. The answer is simple, though perhaps not easy. Practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. The more you actually use English on the phone, the more comfortable and natural it will start to feel. And you don't need high-stakes calls to practice.
So what kind of practice?
One thing you can do, even by yourself, is record yourself.
Record yourself talking.
Yeah. Maybe read some common phone phrases aloud or simulate a short call. Then listen back. It gives you a real sense of your tone, your pace, your pronunciation. You hear what the other person hears.
That sounds slightly terrifying, but I can see how it would be incredibly valuable feedback.
It can feel a bit awkward at first, for sure, but it's so useful. Another great way is role-playing.
With someone else.
Yeah, if you have a language partner, a teacher, even just a willing friend. Practice common scenarios. Making an appointment, asking for information, leaving a message.
Takes the pressure off doing it for real the first time.
Exactly. You could even write out little scripts for different situations, like booking a hotel or calling customer service, and practice reading them aloud until the phrases feel more automatic.
Building that muscle memory for the language.
That's a great way to put it. The more you rehearse, the less you have to think about the words when you're actually on the call.
This has been so incredibly helpful. It really feels like you've broken down phone calls in English and given us, really concrete things we can do to feel more confident.
Glad it's helpful.
So just to kind of wrap it all up, the key things for success on the phone seem to be.
Well, at its heart, it really boils down to a few core things. Speaking clearly, listening carefully, and always aiming for politeness and professionalism.
Clear speaking, careful listening, politeness. Got it.
You nail those and combine it with consistent practice, and those phone calls in English really can become much, much less stressful.
Absolutely. So for everyone listening, now that you're armed with all these tips and phrases, maybe think about a phone call you've been putting off. Do you feel maybe just a little bit more ready to tackle it now? Or perhaps think about how getting more comfortable with phone communication could open up some new doors for you, personally or professionally.
It's a powerful skill to have.
It really is. Thanks so much for diving into this with us today on Speak More Fluently.